Hi, and welcome to another episode of Money Talk, where we don't just talk about money. Sometimes we need to just think about what are we doing to attract it? What are we doing to manage it? What tools are we using to manage it with? Well, today's guest is going to talk to us about that. Many of us just think, okay, I'm just going to have, at the end of the year, I'll just have a shoebox full of receipts and I'll hand them off to my bookkeeper or to the person that prepares my taxes, and away we go. And then there are some of you that are so meticulous, almost down to the dollar, and some even to the penny, how much money they've actually got sitting in any of their accounts, whether it's a business account or a client account. Well, it doesn't make any difference. So we're going to get started, and I have two requests. If you like this, don't keep it to yourself. Share it and like it, and make sure you subscribe so that you can find out when we've got a show coming on. And the other is stay tuned because we'll be right back.
Linda gave me the courage, the confidence to move forward.
And after I was finished with Linda Kaye's training, I was at the next level.
It's Linda Kaye. But when you trust that piece of you that says, I got something to give, I have something to say, you know you've got something to do.
Get on your feet, shake your hands in the air. Welcome to the stage, Linda Kaye.
And we're back. And I did say that we have a really special guest. And our special guest isn't new to money because apparently she's been around money and managing people's money for a pretty long time. She's a published author and a business coach that helps women business owners. Now, why is it that we focus on women? Do you think that we just don't have the aptitude? No. We have the stick-to-itiveness of understanding money matters. And it isn't enough that, oh, my husband or somebody else manages it for me. When you know what you have, when you know how to manage it, guess what? Lots more gets given to you. Yep, that's a fact. But after losing her husband to cancer, she channeled her pain into purpose, teaching herself and her daughters and her clients about money management and cash flow, business coaching, etc., etc., etc. Welcome to our stage, Krista McLellan. Hey, Krista, how are you?
I am well, having some lovely tech issues with all the worldwide tech going on today.
Well, we are pros and the show must go on, and that's what
it does. Life must continue.
Well, and speaking of life must continue, that is a big handful to be given the burden of raising children by yourself. I was a single parent, raised my daughter alone, but my husband, there was no husband. There was no husband involved here, except the initial contribution. So having said that, relying on a partner and building a life together till all of a sudden life as you knew it is instantly over. And you can have time and you can have all the time in the world to prepare for it, Krista. Just as I'm sure the diagnosis for the cancer said, okay, that's a death sentence and we're going to battle it. We're going to see if we can do something about it. And at the end of his life, hopefully you had some real quality time with him and the girls with him as well. But were you prepared to step into life and take over the reins financially?
No. I was really angry with myself and I judged myself harshly for that.
Tell me about that.
Because here I was a bookkeeper, right? I did bookkeeping for businesses.
Wait a minute. You were a bookkeeper and you knew better, didn't you? And you just kind of ignored it because somebody else was taking care of it, right?
Well, I kind of forced it on him. I say that he didn't take my financial power. I put it on his shoulders because I dealt with it all day. I didn't want to deal with it at home. And it was like he was really the breadwinner. My money was really just for the extras for the kids. And so I felt like, he earned it. I didn't want to deal with it after dealing with it, for my clients. And so I thrust it on him. And then it was just a lot of hard, steep learning lessons that I wish I had knew when I started. And it was in his phone and his name and his email, which I didn't have access to. So all of a sudden, I didn't
wait a minute. Wait. You know that he is ill. He probably has a life-threatening illness, and you have some time to prepare for this, or no?
Very short window. We only had 8 months from diagnosis to when he passed.
And 8 months could be a lifetime. This is no judgment on my part, but when my father passed away, my mom had, I think, from beginning of his illness till his end, 9 months. And you're really focused on helping them live the best life that they have left, and you're really not focused on a lot of other things. But what would you say the hardest thing was for you after he was gone?
Well, they didn't tell us that it was a life sentence. They kept telling us, oh, after this next hurdle, he'll be able to come home. And even 3 days before he passed, they were saying, once he gets beyond this, he'll be coming home.
Oh my God.
They didn't tell us. They never told us that it was a life sentence, that it was terminal.
Oh,
never said that.
That's even more tragic. And I'm so sorry for your loss. Tell me how long ago this was.
This will be 13 years and 2 weeks. And I learned a lot of things that I kept my head in the sand, and it's my own doing. And this is where I say, no one ever regrets taking control of their money. No one ever regrets understanding where they stand. There's always a regret of not doing that. And I'm one of those people.
Right. So now you practice what you preach, right?
Very much. And, I brought my children in on making decisions of, okay, things are very different.
How
they
old
were
young
young.
At the time of his passing?
They were 8 and 11.
Okay. And so 13 years later, you've got a 21-year-old and a 30. 24. Okay. See, I can count. I can do mental math.
Yeah. So they're, I brought them in and it's like, all right, we have it took 2 incomes to take care of this household. Now we have one. He was a firefighter. And in our small, tiny little town, there weren't often enough full-time firefighters to be part of the union. So that means no life insurance. That means no disability. Firefighters don't pay into Social Security nationwide. So we didn't have
nationwide. They don't pay into Social Security.
No, they have their own. When you're part of the union, you have your own version of it. But
if they don't have a union, how can they be excluded from getting Social Security? That doesn't seem right.
You're right. And we have worked to change that. And that's unfortunately one of the things that we learned, that I didn't look at his pay stubs. I didn't see that Social Security wasn't withdrawn. I was not a benefit of death on his bank account that his paycheck went into, because we had his account, we had my account, we had the joint account. So all the money that went into his account, I had no right to when he passed. There are things that I've learned.
Hold on. What state are you in?
New Hampshire, but that's true nationwide. You need
actually it isn't in California, because this is a community property state.
It's community property state here too, but if you are not a co-signer, I had to go to court. Right. You either need to be a co-signer or you need to be signed as a beneficiary, which I didn't know. Like, who knew that you have to have a beneficiary? There
is a business of dying, isn't there?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And there's a lot to learn about what you have to do to take care of things. And I'm really surprised that that they're not covered by Social Security. But would you, if you had known, would you have had the option to pay into?
Yes. Yeah. If I had known, you can pay into Social Security. You can make your contributions. There are things that you can do, which is what I now help other, wives of firefighters or even husbands of firefighters, because there are some females,
right.
To be able to, hey, let's make sure that our future is tied up. Make sure that because it's not really an if for firefighters, it's a when they get ill or pass away on the job, that our family is covered. And the same thing with business owners. We don't start a business to not have our family benefit. And I'm dealing with this with a business owner of mine that passed away at COVID, and he didn't have anything in place where that money sat in his account, and his ex-wife, who he was very close with, and his children didn't get to benefit from it because his parents were fighting against his ex-wife over who had legal rights to this fund.
If death is not bad enough, now you've got to fight the survivors. Yeah, and I hear so many stories like this, Kristen, and it's just disheartening. It's incredibly difficult to get through that piece of our life in that regard. But then it's complicated more by, in California, say, for instance, when my brother passed suddenly, and his wife had a right to what would be his interment or what would happen to him after. His family didn't have any say. And, you know, there's some things that just feel like they're inequitable. But there are things that we can do to set things up so that we make sure that that doesn't happen. And,
That's
you
a
know,
lot.
things like a simple trust.
A
trust.
will. A will.
A will. Okay, people get confused about the trust and the will, and they are two separate things. Are you able to talk about them?
I am. So Scott did, when I started to realize that this wasn't good. And so
Was this before or after his passing?
Before his passing, 2 weeks
Okay.
before his passing, we did get a will in place. Thank God.
Okay. Yeah. You have a house, you have children, you have obligations, you have, oh my God.
Too late for a trust, too late. That was too late for a lot of things. And so when I started to look at him and put the pieces together and say, hey, this might not end well. Right. Already we went through all of our life savings trying to save him. You know, chemo's $21,000 a month, and you know, there's no income coming in. And here I am trying to I can't work that much because
you didn't have
him to the hospital, and
I'm just hearing so many awful things. Was he covered by insurance?
Mm-hmm. But insurance caps out.
I see.
Insurance only covers so much, and we had really good insurance. We had Blue Cross Blue Shield. Insurance only covers a certain amount, and then they stop in a year. Then they don't cover anymore.
Oh no! What?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
there are thresholds.
This is a horror story. This is a horror story. So, what would you say to your younger self 13 years ago?
Oh gosh. I say it to my children now.
Be nice, okay? Be nice and kind to her. She needs love.
She does. And I say it to my children. I teach my children's friends, first of all, know where you stand. Have that conversation. Have a money date with yourself and with your partner. Have that flow.
A money date.
You know,
it can be so icky to talk about, can it?
Yeah, but you know what? It doesn't have to be. It can be, but it doesn't have to be. And when we sit down and we can actually talk about, hey, where do we stand? What do we have coming up? Like, what do we need to plan for? Having that money date. We didn't have that. We didn't discuss money. I had no idea. I didn't know that he was behind on the mortgage. I didn't know that he was behind on other bills. I didn't know we had debt, right? Because I had my head in the sand. So be in the know. There's always one person in the relationship that is the person in charge of money. There always is. It's just that's how it happens.
Right. It's just and at times that power could shift from one to the other as well. And there are times that it has to, because one is sick and the other one's got to be making decisions, not mistakes. Right.
But at least know, like I taught a group of women last weekend. I did a weekend intensive, and it was like, okay, well, who does your taxes? I don't know. My husband handles that. This is your homework. I want you to find out. And it's not a matter of, and some of them looked at me like, oh, well, it's going to make it seem like I'm not trusting my husband. No, it's your money too. You should know who is your tax person.
Listen, would you send your kids to school and just assume that your husband's going to pick them up? We coordinate these things to take care of the responsibilities. It is our responsibility to understand what obligations there are. Where does the money go? How much is coming in? How much are we keeping for ourselves? It's it's the three parts of money, right? Paying ourselves first, meaning we've got something that's put away for our future. And then the tzedakah, the piece that says this is the charitable piece of this. Mm-hmm. And maybe it's going to be a small amount, whatever your belief system is. But the rest of that has got to be managed so that you have enough money between pay periods to be able to get that money. Unless you have that tree out in the backyard that you've been nurturing, that you can go pluck from time to time a few hundreds. A few thousands, whatever you've got, right? So
tracking it, people don't track. I didn't know. I didn't know where I stood. We didn't track our money. I didn't know he wasn't managing our money. I had no idea the debt that he had got us in, because apparently he wasn't good at handling money, and I actually was. But I didn't want to, because I did it during the day for clients.
Yeah, that's interesting. Maybe he felt obligated because you said, I don't want to take care of this. You take care of it. And how many men would hold their hand up and say, hey, I'm not good at this. In fact, I suck at it. Can I see any hands? No guy is going to pick up a phone and go, I don't know. I don't know what the hell a balance sheet is. What do you mean a
A
P&L?
budget?
What?
What's a budget? And that's what, you know, I'd say that to people all the time.
It reminds me of a caption of a cartoon, and this woman looks up and she says, "How can I?" She goes to the bank. She goes, "How can I be out of money? I still have checks."
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Well, I hear it all the time from women.
There's a level of ignorance, and they say ignorance is bliss, but it isn't.
Not.
Ignorance can kill you because
does,
you don't know the answers to how much money is coming in, how much money is going out, how much is the mortgage, how much was our principal.
How do we pay the mortgage?
Right? And who pays for it? When is it due? Right? When is the insurance policy due on the house to take care of the house? Do we have?
I had to go to court for my mortgage.
Oh my goodness! And
Because it was
wait a minute?
his
Are you
password.
also, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Are you on the mortgage?
I was on the mortgage, right? And I'm on the deed. However, it was his password, his email, his phone. I didn't have access to that. I had to go to court.
He didn't give this to you before he passed?
He didn't think he was going to die. We didn't think he was going to die. 3 days before, they're telling us he's going home.
I don't believe I'm going to die either, but I do have a contingency plan.
We were young and dumb.
Young and dumb. That's our excuse, and I'm sticking to it. Young and dumb.
It's like
kids are so much smarter today, though, Krista. And thankfully,
but they aren't. I'm going to tell you, they aren't. Do you know
Really?
I had one of yes. So one of my kids. So I have my kids. They're 24 and 21, right? But as they were growing up, my kids had to earn their money. Well, one of my kids' friends said, "Hey, let's go out and do this." And my oldest said, "I really don't have the money for that." She goes, "Oh, just go to the ATM and get it." And my oldest says, "I don't have the money in my ATM for that." She goes, "Well, there's always money in the ATM." She had no idea her parents just kept putting money in for her. That she didn't know that she was. They don't teach it. They don't teach cash flow. Another one of her friends is actually her ex-boyfriend now. That he was like, "I don't understand why I'm bouncing stuff. I looked on my phone. It said there was money in the bank." Not understanding how to keep a check register of all the activity that, hey, guess what? It's not going to clear till Monday. All the stuff you did over the weekend won't clear till Monday.
That's
Sunday
right.
might look like there's money there.
Got to wait till it clears.
They don't teach it.
And I think that today it's a lot easier for kids to understand where they stand with money because there's Zelle, there's all kinds of ways that the ATM that they're using that does take that money out instantly, right? So they know that within a couple of $100, unless they're spending a little bit more extravagantly, where they stand, where their money is. But I would say that one of the things that caught my eye and my interest in your story was that you realized you had a problem and you came out of this. Tell me the steps that you took. Tell me your story.
So first of all, you have to know, it's like, where's Waldo, right? You got to know where you are first. It's like you are here. So where are we? And finding out where we stand is the first step in anything. And that's tracking. So that's what I did is I was like, all right, what do I have coming in? What do I have going out? Where am I? Am I negative? And at that point I was. So I had to cut some expenses. And my children, I had that discussion on what we were going to cut. And they got to help make those, even as young as they were, they got to help make that decision because it did impact them. And we had to decide, are we going to stay and fight for this home? Or are we going to give up our home and go live with Nana and money will be easier? And we decided to stay and fight. So we gave up cable TV. We had to cut our expenses to live within what was coming in. So that's the first thing is you have to know where you stand. Then you have to track. So I did a workbook and this is what the kids and I did. And we made a game we did the old envelope system that I was brought up with, where this is the mortgage.
I hear so many people say that. Oh, there's nothing left in the envelope. I guess we're going to have to cut that expense until we've got money, until we can refill the envelope.
And we tried to leave money in the envelope. It was a game.
It's really simple to comprehend envelopes and money in the envelopes. it's not easy to comprehend. How do we refill that? Where are we going to go get that? How do we refill it? We can't just go to the sink and turn the faucet on, right? Out pours coins of money. So how did that impact your kids that they were participating in the decisions? They're old enough. At 8 years old, they really are old enough. Heck, at 6 years old, they have comprehend a lot. 2 and 3, no, they don't understand that. But I remember even as a kid, I never thought we were poor until maybe in middle school when somebody asked me, "Why are you wearing your shoes from last year? Aren't those last year's shoes?" It never occurred to me I would go buy a new pair because there was still a lot of tread on those shoes yet, right? So kids get messages from everybody else, but what they get from parents is, that messaging. What messaging were you giving the girls? Because this is value system now that we're talking about.
Yes. It's what's important to us, where do we want to spend our money on? And that shows what's important to us. And so like when it came time, the first Christmas without Scott, I live in New Hampshire, it gets cold, right? Yep. And here's our first Christmas. And I said, okay, we have a choice. This is how much money we have right now extra that we can spend on Christmas. That means we can either have like our Christmas breakfast that we were used to, because I only had $50, or you can each have $25 in gifts, or like we have to choose. They chose breakfast because that was the tradition they like more than stuff. And then, money was really tight. They had gotten gift cards. The fire department my husband was on gave them gift cards for Christmas.
Nice.
And right after Christmas, I'm running out of oil. It was like January 15th. I'm running out of oil. I need new tires.
Heating the house, you mean?
Yep, to heat the house. I need new tires because my mechanic said your tires are not safe. You can't be driving on the ice with your kids in the car like this. And I'm like, I didn't have money for both. I knew I had money for oil, but I hadn't intended on new tires. And I was like, okay, what am I going to do? Because I can't drive. I can't put my kids in danger. And my kids turned around, and what was important to them is they gave me their gift cards, and they said that they wanted tires for Christmas.
Wow. Oh my gosh, that just gives me chills.
It's hard to not choke up.
Yep.
Proud? Yes. I also felt like the biggest failure in the world as a mother, that they were giving up. I mean, they got $50 gift cards, that was all that they had. And they were giving it up because they understood the value of what we were working for.
They didn't give up all that they had. They gave up so that they could have all that they do have, right? And that's a different perspective, because they knew how important having a car was. They were going to benefit from being taken to places, being in the car. They would also benefit from being warm, being in the house. So, as much as you are hard on yourself and feeling that that angst that we feel as parents that we're not enough, you are more than enough. And those kids, that's a reflection back on you, Krista. That's the value system. That's the values I'm talking about, that you instilled in them, that what is important, from the breakfast to the tires to all the other decisions. We are capable of making hard decisions.
We are, and doing hard things.
Yep.
And I mean, I found that your business money and your personal money are best friends. What happens to one tends to happen to the other. If you can't control your home money, you can't control your business money. And if you can't spend well $1,000, then you're gonna pour through $100,000 as well. You have to start handling the small amounts.
To that one. Let me just tell you how well I know that one.
It's as the kids got older, and my business started to grow, and more money came in, and we dug out. I have a youngest who is quite a talented dancer, and she was offered to be on this dance team, right, to go compete, which wasn't in our budget. We called it a money plan. We didn't call it a budget. We called it a money plan. And so my oldest decided to give up her soccer money to give her younger sister the money to go to dance, because she was like, it's not that important to me. It's important to her. And I was very proud of her for that. And
What
my young
beautiful lessons. Oh my goodness. What
they're
incredible.
now right now they're roommates. They moved out together into an apartment together, and they're roommates still supporting each other.
Oh, that's
It's really a
great.
beautiful, beautiful thing. And they still come over and help me shovel, thank goodness. Because I can't always
That has to make it into the money plan, so somebody else is doing it for you, Krista. There's some things that we do express that we have the luxury of getting because we've earned and we've also saved and we've also planned for those pieces to be in place. I hate to clean house, and for that same reason, putting the money plan has to include a housekeeper.
It does.
Because
And mine does now. Mine
Oh,
absolutely
okay.
does now. That was the first thing I gifted myself when cash became easier. First thing, because my time is not best spent cleaning the house. It's best spent helping my clients.
yeah, money isn't everything, but it certainly makes life easier. You know, and I'm just shocked at some of the things that you told me about firemen or firefighters and a union, and that they don't get Social Security. So
Good luck getting life insurance on a firefighter.
Oh my gosh, no kidding. I mean, he's running into fires. He's at risk all the time, right?
So our firefighters are not covered very well. It's better. And also cancer, a lot of firefighters get cancer. And yet in our state, it was not deemed a workers' comp issue.
No.
In many states it is. It is in our state now. We have worked to change that. It is a workers' comp issue now. Not that it helps my family, but it will help other families.
Sure, absolutely. So give me the 411 on the most essential things that a family, well, let's focus on the women that you're working with, whether they are married or they are single. What are the top things that they need to understand to feel empowered to be able to take control of their finances, and they know where they are?
So I say none of us are born experts, right? Nope. Unless you start to practice something, you're not going to get good at it. So when people say I'm not good with money, I say, no, you just weren't taught how. We can all be good with money if we decide to learn how, and you haven't been taught how. And we can sit down and accounting is actually very, very simple. Where does the money come from and where did it go to? That's all it is.
Right. Plus and minus.
Yep. So when we can sit down and bring it down to basics of where's it coming from, where's it going to, and do I want it to go there? I recently wrote a blog, is your coffee worth $10,000? Because what people are spending on coffee, right? We're looking at, it only takes $27.80 a day to blow $10,000 in a year.
Oh, repeat that little stat. That's an important one. 27. Who pays $27? Last time I went to Starbucks, I was like shocked. It's like, oh my goodness, I didn't know that was that expensive. Now add 1-2 things to it, maybe a macchiato and maybe a breakfast sandwich.
Snack. Yeah.
And
it's easy to spend $15
in the afternoon, and there goes $27. If you're doing this every day, $10,000 goes like that, doesn't it?
Yep. So being intentional.
$10,000 do. So if they were that intentional and consistent, that $10,000 investment into into stocks and bonds or into their favorite crypto or into the I wouldn't say crypto, but no, you need to know what you're doing. So working with professionals and practicing it, that's really important. All right, so we got the money thing taken care of. Now, what other things could that younger self have understood or known, especially about her husband who's in a high-risk job? What things would you tell your audience? Here, pay attention to this.
Get life insurance young. It's cheaper when you're young. I would get life insurance young. I had no idea when he passed away. Someone said to me, well, don't you have that insurance that pays off your mortgage if your spouse dies? I didn't know it existed. There's insurance that will pay off your mortgage. Should you get even not, you don't even have to pass away. If you are diagnosed with a life-ending illness, it will pay off your mortgage. If it is a disability, a disabling illness, it'll pay it off 80%. That exists. My life would be very different if I had known that existed. If we had life insurance from him in general, one of my clients now, she's built a business from the money that her dad left her. She's young. She's not much older than my children. And she's been able to build this amazing business from the money her dad left her from his life insurance. And my kid's like, well, that would have been nice if we had something left from dad, right? And I said,
Oh
yeah,
my goodness.
it would have been. I
would
didn't know we needed life insurance. We were young. Like, we didn't think that he was going to die in his 40s. Like,
There is a policy called an AD&D, an accidental death and dismemberment, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's a simple thing that you can usually find them in the back of the Inquirer, because inquiring minds want to know. And for some reason, they always advertise there. But that's a very cheap policy. And then just getting a life insurance, not a term life, which means you got to die in order to collect on it, right? So these are very unsavory topics, but they are topics which you must cover, because there must be a plan. If you have kids, or you're thinking about having kids, you need to have a plan in place that says, hey, if you're not there and you can't make that contribution anymore, who's going to do it? Who can provide for them? In the same way, that you're providing for your spouse. So whether you're man or woman, you've got to be thinking about these things. The other thing is having a plan. Having this life of secrecy, and I'm going to call it secrecy, Krista, because his and mine, and then ours, right? I will tell you that whether they die or they die in the relationship because you got a divorce, you need to know where these things are. You need to know, what are they? Where are they? He may have socked things away, but what about how to access it, to get it, to know about it, to understand it. And
it's huge.
I love it. I love your idea of a money date.
Discuss if you can't discuss, and this is what I've learned, because I do have someone in my life now, and that is one of the things that it's a non-negotiable for me, is that we need to be able to talk about money, be very forthright, honest, open, and transparent. I see a lot of couples in the businesses that I work with where the husband, oh no, I'm going to put it here, I don't want my wife to know.
Right.
Or the wife is coming to me from the business owner saying, he doesn't know that we're not making it on our bills because he's not giving me enough money for the house. And like, they're not having conversations. There's not transparency. This is your partner in your life. And would you not share with your business partner what's going on? If it's your business partner, he would know.
I would share with my business partner if I was doing something that I didn't want them to know about. That is the honest to God's truth.
Yep.
So not to say that the spouse shouldn't be trusted on every level, but if you're planning to get out, then your plan needs to be kind of laid out so that you can both walk away whole and clean. That's not always the case here, but or the incentive or the motivation. There are other things here that we talked about as well. One other piece that I think is a big, big part of this: a trust. A trust.
My house is in a trust now. Yep, I had to renegotiate to get Scott's name off of it because we did end up with $185,000 in medical debt.
Oh my God.
Beyond what insurance paid for. And so I made sure that they couldn't come after the trust. And God forbid something happens to me. I want to know that my kids don't have to go through probate and don't have to pay inheritance tax. And essentially they own it already, right? It's theirs.
And that's really the key, is like, where do you want things to go when you're not around? That's really the purpose of your trust. What do I have? Who's going to get it, right? So just like a money plan, how much is coming in, how much is going out? The trust is, what do I have and who's going to get it?
And then they don't have to argue about it.
No.
My funeral is all paid for, because that was the other thing. Here we had no money, and I had to figure out how to bury him.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
It took me 3 years to pay the funeral home so that I could. And do you know that they will not give you the remains because we had him cremated? They will not give you the remains until that bill is paid off.
Oh no.
Took me 3
Lord.
years to pay for the funeral.
Good grief. These are things that can be avoided. So on a happier note, tell me about the money plan that you have in your place and in your life now.
So we have a money date. My husband and I am newly married.
Congratulations.
To my childhood sweetheart, which is,
wow.
It's a sweet story. And he is wonderful with my children and very understanding of where I come from, that I am fiercely independent. I will never rely on somebody again, ever. I will make sure I can pay my bills myself.
Yep.
And we do discuss money, and we do it on a weekly basis. And it's a non-judgment thing, but it's like, all right, making sure we have the same priorities, that we're rowing in the same direction. Because if you're rowing in different directions, you're going in circles.
Or
So we want to row in the
you're
same
not going anywhere, right? If
Yeah,
you're going to be on the same team, if you get in the boat and row in the same direction, right?
So that's
and
what we
if you
do.
want to be in the boat, let me know, and I'll get to shore. Otherwise, I got to toss you out in the middle of the lake. So
Exactly. And it makes it so you can adjust. He came from a prior marriage where it wasn't comfortable talking about money. It was a very adversarial conversation. It was difficult for them, and he was, he felt like a child being given an allowance, and that's not how I came to it. He knows where my business money is, and it includes, yes, he knows what goes on in my business. I know what goes on with his, we know what's going on in our money world, and we plan together, and we dream together, because when you dream about what your future is, okay, well, how are we going to get there? And it takes money.
Right.
And so we plan together. It's like, well, this is what we want. And so right now we are looking at getting a camper, because we had one, and I put my she shed where the camper was. The camper was old and not worth repairing. And so I built my she shed, and our next step is getting a camper again and going camping. So right now we are paying ourselves what it would be for a camper payment to make sure we can afford it.
That's awesome. That is so good. I can't believe we're already out of time. In fact, we're over time, but this is such a great topic and so important for women to understand and for men to understand. For goodness sakes, if your wife is the breadwinner and you're getting this allowance, you need to know it the same way, and to be empowered, not to take control of somebody, but to control your life, to control your outcome, to control what your life is going to look like with or without that person. That's so critical. Oh my goodness. Krista, how do we find you?
You can find me on Instagram, and you can find me online as well as Facebook at EM Bookkeeping Solutions. Actually, it's embookkeepingsolutions.com is the website. And it's EM Bookkeeping on Instagram and Facebook. And I do try and post some interesting things for people to think about, not just tax and bookkeeping stuff, but how do we take control of our money? Because you won't ever regret it. The best thing you can do to stand in your power is take control of your finances.
Oh, thank you so much. And thank you for that, Krista. And congratulations on your new marriage of Old Flame. Let it keep flowing.
Thank you so much. It's been a joy.
All right. Thank you. Take care. And that's another episode and a wrap. Man, I tell you, there are so many people that are talking about, I didn't know this and I didn't know enough about that. Make sure that you take care of who you are. Make sure you take care of the life that you want and the life that you have. Until then, we'll see you next time. Take care. And we're out.
Do you like to talk about money? If you do and you'd like to be a guest, contact me at lindakay360.com.